Welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs. I'm Jonathan Freedman, and our next guest is Abigail Auerbach-Perets, founder and CEO of EazyDone. Welcome to Radio Entrepreneurs.
Well, thank you. Good to be here.
Great to see you. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about your business and what it is that you do?
Sure. Well, Easy Done is really was born out of the idea that there's a lack of trust with online reviews. And really when you go to find a recommendation for whatever, you rely on reviews. You don't know who they come from. And in the age of AI, you can't, which is making a lot of things very interesting and wonderful. You can't trust anything. So it's really about bringing trust back where it can be. And the trust relies in real life. And the idea that a recommendation of someone you know is worth 1,000 recommendations of people you don't know is where Easy Done came to be. I was always searching for a recommendation for whatever it is. It could be anything for me, for the kids, always searching for that anchor of trust, and it's lacking online somehow. It didn't make it online as much, and that's really what we're here to solve, to bring trust back to the online experience.
So really interesting. I mean, it's sort of at a convergence at a time when, there's so much question as to what's authentic online and what is, not even taking AI into consideration, paid, whether it's paid, to how to get real, authentic, independent recommendations. And that seems to be a challenge in everyday life. So you built a community. It's peer-to-peer based. Tell us a little bit about the concept behind it and how do people join your platform? Well, we'll get down the road, but how do we know that your reviews are authentic?
So the idea, I've spent my career in consumer businesses, and there's something I'm, probably too in love with or too curious about consumer behavior around things. And the reality is that if you ask for a recommendation from someone that you know, and they say, "Oh, I've got someone amazing," could be someone for the home, it could be a tutor. If they recommend someone, "Oh, here's someone I use, they're great." If they're available and the price is right, that's like 100% conversion to a deal, which doesn't happen online, right? Online, we're talking about 1, 2% because you can't really trust. So the idea is that Easy Done harnesses the power of existing communities. Because in reality, we live in a real world where we meet real people. And there is something about taking the real life communities. It could be your workplace, your building, a school, wherever it is that you chose to belong to a community and you rely on them and you know the people. So we basically give that existing community the Easy Done platform to recommend the service providers that they know. The idea is we connect. I'll give the instance of a school because we're working mainly with schools. Schools are very, when your kid gets to school age, that's a very high friction point in life. You need a million new things. You might have moved. You've chosen a school that
A lot of
aligns with your values.
commonality, a lot of commonality between the parents and the people in the school. Yep. Makes
Exactly. So we basically collaborate with the school so they can harness all of that word of mouth recommendation that is happening at drop off and pick up and at the water cooler, because there's all this golden data within these communities that is just, it's gold. You turn to your school, do you know someone, speech therapist, a tutor, whatever it is. And we take all that data and make it accessible to the parents. So when you join a school or a community, you have access to that inside circle. You have a break from all the noise, all the chaos and unreliable recommendation. You know what? Here are the 10 math tutors recommended and used by other parents, and that's really all you need. Because when you make a decision to purchase a service or a product, you don't pick one out of 1,000. You pick one out of five that you got recommendations. So we kind of also cap it at about 10 service providers per category to give that peace of mind and also make sure that we have the best. And it grows from
Well,
school to school.
I think you've solved one of the banes of my consumer experience is like, how many mustards do I need to look at on a shelf to pick one? And I just
Exactly.
use that as an example. So I think you're really spot on when it comes to service providers or resources. The old expression, less is more, right? Give me the good
Exactly.
ones. I don't need the 50 that are no good. So it sounds like you've created almost really hyper-focused communities. In other words, it's at the organizational level, a school or a piece like that. So how does it work? Who becomes a member? How does the platform work for consumers, and how does it work for providers?
Yeah, so we partner at this point, we're focusing on schools. We have a big belief of that the school system as a focal point for family life. We partner with the school The school then, we're on their like parent portal, which means it's also in a trusted location. It's not open to everyone. You have to be a parent from the school to have access, and the service providers are referred by those parents. So the school really, again, harnesses that word of mouth, and the parents recommend the service providers. Then they are invited to the platform. It's an invite-only platform, so you can't advertise there. You can't buy your way in. It's not, it's not pay to play. It's really trusted. So just think we always go back to how it is in real life. In real life, I would recommend someone for you, which means I've used them. Here's their information. So we're making that available. So it's the school
You've got no
device.
skin in you sorry, you've got no skin in the game other than your reputation. You're referring somebody, right? You don't have
Exactly.
nothing else to gain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what we do is a lot of times we'll partner with the school, and then usually it would be someone from like the parent association that would be an ambassador, but there's always those influencer parents that know everything and know everyone, and you turn to them for everything. So those parents, I mean, they are doing a service to their community all the time. And this is a way to really tap into their leadership skills. They are our first ambassadors. They recommend the first doers, as we call them, because they get things done, because we're here to make life easier getting things done. So they refer the first doers, the doers sign up, and then they're accessible for the parents. And the more the word gets around, the more people are referred. And again, going to the numbers game, you don't need 10,000 reviews, right? You need 5 reviews of people you know that say that this person is amazing. And that's why it works like with the community base, and then the scale comes from, they're over 35,000, just private schools, not even talking about the public system. So it's endless because communities are endless. I mean,
So has Access, by the way, I love the way you fit in the name of the business right there. Nice and, easy done. Give me a sense, has it been a challenge to get the schools on board? Because it would seem to me that, or are you not providing, I guess you're not disclosing who the other parents are. They sign up as choice. It's not like the school is saying to you, here's the, 200 families in our school. Feel free to access them. So
yeah,
it's an opt-in model, essentially. The school
exactly.
makes them aware of it, and then they can choose to participate or not.
Exactly. So that's a very good question because it all goes also into privacy laws, and we don't want to, we built it so even though our button is on the parent portal of the school, they don't share any of the parent data with us. Basically, you as a parent would log on to the parent portal, you would press the EazyDone button, and that would take you to the EazyDone community or directory on your school, but that lives outside of the school system, so that the way they don't have to share any data and it keeps it secure. And as a parent, you log in again to EazyDone. So we separated. It takes 2 minutes for a school to implement this in terms of the tech part of it. It's very simple, and they have a lot to gain because it really reinforces the value they give their parents and the being a focal point for the community because that's what they want to be. I mean, all the schools want to be everything to their
Right.
community.
Right.
So this
More
is,
than just
yeah.
educators. They want to bring the community together. They want to build lasting relationships, et cetera. And I guess in some way they're helping to simplify people's lives by not having to shop around endlessly for service providers or resources. Um,
Yeah. I mean,
so
we've moved around, and I've turned to my school for everything that I needed. Every time in a new school, I need whatever I need. I turn to them because that's the community that I chose more than just the street I live on.
right, and it's certainly a trusted community, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't entrust them with your children. So it
Exactly.
makes perfect sense. The ultimate form of trust, right? Where do you see the scale? Where do you see the opportunity beyond local? Is that part of the plan as in the long term?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, what we see is so you asked how hard it is to get the schools on board. So, of course, the first ones were the more difficult, but then there are two things kicked in. First of all, the technology became easier and everything was solved, but also FOMO kicked in because if this school has it, then we should have it also. So that became much easier. I have, a line of more communities than I can handle at this point. And because life is more fluid than you would like to think, so a lot of times there's a service provider recommended by someone from one school, but then there's a school, a mile away that the service provider can be a service provider in that school also. So it's very, very quickly they populate the directories, and but there's always that clear, if the most important cornerstone here is trust, it's always clear who recommended. So if you were in your school, you would see that I'm a parent in the school, you would have my name and see that I recommended. If you're a parent from another school, you would see that a parent from another school, but you wouldn't see my name. So things spill over quite easily, definitely in the Boston area, which we're starting with. But I've got other communities lined up. So I think there's something, and also a lot of schools are chains. So it's,
So I think I can go on forever asking questions because it's just so fascinating and it's one of these things that's challenging. One thing that comes to mind, or one question that comes to mind is, not everybody has 100% positive experiences with every provider. Does the platform allow for less than stellar reviews, or is it strictly a recommendation? And here's where I'm challenged with it. You buy something, and let's use the behemoth. You buy something online. Well, I don't care who the retailer is. You have 1,000 reviews. You have 4.7 out of 5 stars, yet you have, 201 stars, And as a consumer, how do you wrap your head around why did those 200 people have such a negative experience? And am I going to be one of those, or am I going to be one of the people that had the 5 star? And so
yeah,
how do you vet that, the people that don't have positive experiences? And I guess to some degree, is it the doer or is it the consumer? That's the
yeah.
problem in that relationship.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I think that's also one of the beauties of having this have Easy Done live within real life communities. So we allow for negative reviews, but I think people are more accountable on both ends. Both the service provider he's seen, right? He's one of 10. He was recommended by someone he knows. You're very seen. So you, I think, handle yourself better and that. And also as a customer, you wouldn't necessarily give a bad review unless it's really warranted. And if it's warranted, then I think that kind of takes care, the way it's built, it takes care of itself. Because if you have a bad review, you won't be booked, right? So if there are 10 service providers per category, if you're number 10 in reviews, you probably won't get booked. So you probably won't stay on the platform. So it
The
kind of
cream
takes
floats to
care
the
of
top. Right.
exactly
Absolutely.
because you can't pay to be on the top and you can't, it keeps it very, very honest.
Excellent. Abigail Auerbach-Perets, CEO of EazyDone. If people want to reach out to you, find more about the platform, if it's an organization or a doer, what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
Well, the best way they can go to our website. We have like a public version of it, which is easydone.com with a Z, EAZYDONE.com. And they can get in touch with us through there. We're on all social. EasyDone 101 is our tag. And I'm happy to also drop my email, which is abigail@easydone.com. So
Wonderful. It's been a pleasure having you on Radio Entrepreneurs and wish you continued success.
thank you so much. It's great being here.
And we'll be right back with another segment on Radio Entrepreneurs.